last year of secondary school principals, administrators, and I had a man come up to the table to our booth, and he was livid. He was a principal of the school. He says, "This is what's wrong with our school system. We're playing games. We should be teaching them reading and writing and arithmetic." And I'm going, please play it. The same guy now has ordered games for his district. So again, reading and writing is at the bottom, and that's still what we're doing in our school system. At the very top, doing the real thing, taking action, doing the real thing in life. And what's right below it? Simulating the real thing, playing the game, playing cash flow. When I saw this, I stopped the meeting we were having at Arizona State University, called Robert and said, "Robert, you will not believe what I've just seen. This is going to be the beginning, the middle, and the end of Teach to Be Rich, because it validates his life of teaching."
As I said, games, I mean, I saw a completely different world playing Monopoly. You know, by just playing Monopoly, suddenly I saw the way that I could become rich. And it had nothing to do with school and all this. It's not to say that reading and lecture are not important, but it's to say this is the way we learn the most. You know, I've learned by playing games. And then right before that is real life. So that's why we recommend you play the cash flow game 3 or 4 times and teach it to 10 people before you start playing with real life money. The last thing I want to say about real life is this. One of the reasons A, students are not successful in the real world, not all of them, but a lot of them aren't, is because what they learn in school down here is not to make mistakes. So they're really afraid of the real world, and they stay in the corporate world, the world of academia. How many people know people who went to school at age 5 and they're still in school today? You know, that was my poor dad. He only did well in school, so he stayed there. He had no idea what the real world was about because he was afraid of making mistakes. So that's how it affects the whole thing. So when you get to this book here, you can study this cone of learning right now, but you can see the worst ways of learning are reading and lecture, and the best ways of playing games and by doing the real thing. And that's why we created the cash flow game, was to not only for you to learn, but to help other people learn. Because when you play a game, it's mental, emotional, physical, as well as spiritual learning. Because it involves all of your senses. So
it's also why this product, Teach to Be Rich, is going to be a larger book. It's going to include the DVDs that we are recording with you today. It's because we want to walk the talk. It's experiential learning. And experiential learning is simulating the real thing and then doing it and learning from your mistakes.
Yeah. I'd like to bring one of my best friends, Blair Singer, because you have a son who's like me in school, right?
Yeah, Ben.
Yeah. Why don't you tell him what's happened to him?
Well, Ben is one of these 10-year-old boys in school that have a hard time sitting still. Has anybody here ever met one? And as a result of that, he had difficulty in some of the traditional reading, writing, and math stuff at school. As a result, we've had him play, we played cash flow game with him, the kids version, but he got a little bored with that and decided that he wanted to play the adult version. And I have to tell you right now that my son Ben has probably played the cash flow adult version of the game at least 20 or 25 times. He typically gets out of the rat race in about 20 minutes.
Most adults takes 4 hours, if ever.
It takes 4 hours. But what's interesting about it is here was a kid who had a hard time with reading, special programs, the teachers had concern, problems with math, all of this stuff. But what he learned in the cash flow game is he now, when doing the financial statements, we actually took the financial statement to his reading coach, and they said, who wrote this out for him? They go, he did it. Because he's doing it, his writing is legible, his math is perfect. He went from, actually, I didn't tell you this, he actually went from doing, he's in 5th grade, went from doing 4th grade level math, he's not doing 7th grade level math, because it has relevance to him now. And True. But the biggest win, here's a kid who really had, you know, as all 10-year-olds, really, their view of themselves is very, very important. And sometimes when he gets a little beat up on the soccer field or a little bit beat up by the kids that are supposedly smarter, he comes back and he wants to play the cash flow game. Because out of the cash flow game, in listening to us talk, he takes his allowance money and he goes out and he buys silver.
He saves silver, not currency.
Not currency. And so what happens is he comes back and he's because his friends did something to him, and he goes, but they don't have silver. So, some people say that, about money and self-esteem and all that stuff, but what we observe, my wife Eileen and I observe with our son, is his ability to really manifest something through this game in the real world has done light years for his self-esteem. In a world where he's been persecuted because he wasn't smart enough, not attentive enough, too good of a salesperson, so he's considered disruptive in school if you're a good salesperson, is that he found a place where, as you talk about, that he has financial genius. And in working with his class, and we do a couple events there, he actually stood in front of the room in front of 50 4th, 5th, and 6th graders and explained to them the purpose of knowing your math, because if you bought silver at $7.25 and now it's $8.50, how much money did I make? He says in front of the room.
Right.
So that's a testimony to games in a world where reading and lecture has always been prized. Is you got to handle that first. And in the case of Ben, the game comes first.
Right. So thank you. That's what we do. So again, that's why I created this product. But I'd like to end with this thought. And my thought is this, that every single one of us has a genius. Okay? And as I said earlier, it was only until I went to school that I think I was stupid. I didn't know I was stupid until I went to school, and the teacher started labeling me that. And I started looking at that. I said, this is really quite, ridiculous. And it was my rich dad again who really kind of helped me with it and all this. He says, there's people with different kinds of geniuses, but we all have one. Let me say it this way. Every animal has a special advantage. For instance, a cheetah can run fast, a bird can fly, and a cockroach you cannot kill. Everything. Every one of God's creatures has a special genius, something unique that's for them. So if a cockroach has one, why not you? That's the way I look at it. So my poor dad, who was a school teacher, also said to me, my poor dad didn't like school either. He was trying to protect their genius. He said, what the word genius comes from is genie in us. It's that magic. It's where we do something that's different than everybody else. And I want to say this much. For me personally, my genius, if I could say this, my genius did not come out in school. It was crushed in school. I do not do well with reading and lecture. Also, my genius does not come out in the corporate world. I do not like climbing the corporate ladder. I don't like to say hello, yes sir, no sir, I'll do as you tell me, sir. I don't like what they pay me. I don't like their benefit plans. So my genius didn't do well in the corporate world. Some people do. The definition of intelligence is for you to be smart enough or intelligent enough to find that spot in the world where your genius comes out. And let me explain that. Your genius is dependent upon the environment you're in. As I said, my genius didn't do well in school and didn't do well in the corporate world. My genius does well on the street. My genius does well in real estate. I do well as an entrepreneur, but not as a corporate guy. I don't get along with them too well. I'm a different kind of character. Does that make sense to you? So if you can understand this, Tiger Woods has a genius. But Tiger Woods' genius comes out in the environment of the golf course. You ever watch that guy pick up the club? That's where his genius comes out. If he was a jockey, he would not be a genius there. So you have to find the environment where your genius comes out, because every one of us has one. Mick Jagger went to school to be an accountant. But he found his genius as a what? Rolling Stone. And so the message I want to leave with each and every one of you is that you have a genius. If you look at this picture up here on the plasma, see, every child has one. It's that magic. It's that thing that they know that nobody else knows. It's that special gift that every child is born with. And the problem with school is it crushes the genius of kids who do not respond well to reading and lecture. So if you look at it this way, this here is what your environment looks like. Like I said, I didn't do well in school. I didn't do well in the corporate world, but I do well on the streets. I do well in real estate. I don't do well in picking stocks. I don't do well with bonds. I don't do well with mutual funds. That's not where my genius lies. So your job, ladies and gentlemen, is have the courage and the wherewithal to go out and find that spot in the world when you rub the magic lamp, your environment, your genius comes out. Where that is, I don't know, but may you have the courage to find it. If you do as our school system teaches you, which is to go to school and look for a safe, secure what? Job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, diversify, and invest for the long term, you'll probably never find your genius. That make sense, you guys here? So may you find your genius, because each and every one of you has it. It is only crushed when you don't have the courage to find it. It doesn't mean your genius is easy to find. Look at Tiger Woods. He busts his you-know-what to find his genius. Look at Oprah Winfrey. You know, she's been in front of television and she works really hard to be successful at that. Too many people think that just because it's your genius, it should be easy. Lazy people really don't get ahead. I have no respect for lazy people because I'm one of the laziest people I know. I never thought that my genius would lie in education because I hated school so much. But the moment I started to teach outside the system, I noticed that people's lives were changing. But not just that, I'm not saying I'm the best teacher, but I make more money than most teachers. And so the world will reward you if you have the courage to give your gift, your genius. Does that make sense, you guys here? It's very, very important. So in closing, if I could say this, that I'm not saying do real estate. And I'm not saying do what do you call that, entrepreneurship. But some of you may find your genius as an employee. Some of you may find it as a self-employed person. Mine just happened to be over here. Because a guy named Jim Cramer on CNBC, his genius is picking stocks. That guy is a genius at that. He shouldn't do real estate. Buffett says, why should I do real estate when stocks are so easy? So the point here, ladies and gentlemen, just don't follow blindly like a pack of sheep. Invest for the long term, diversify, save money, get out of debt, and turn your money over to so-called experts. You have a genius, so does your children, so the people around you. The reason I want you to play the cash flow game and study is so that you can find your genius. But like I said, it takes some work for it to come out because you have a gift. The most important thing is find out what really works for you, not what I say. Does that make sense, you guys here? So rub that magic lamp, that environment. It could be in church. It could be as a poet. It could be as a gardener. Who cares? That's where your genius comes out. And when you find that, I think you'll find your life more abundant and happier. There's nothing worse than somebody who's working because their parents told them to do it or because you make a lot of money at it. That's when people go postal. You know, they have a job security with the post office department. And they really cannot stand it because they've bought somebody else's program here. So, as I said, I'm not pushing stocks, bonds, real estate, entrepreneurship, and all this, but really my whole message is to find that genius. Because as Warren Buffett, the world's greatest investor, says, it's a very important quote. Happily, there's more than one way to get to financial heaven. And ladies and gentlemen, may you find that way that works best for you. Thank you very much.